link.
The law office of John Elias understands that choosing a family law attorney is a difficult decision. The outcome of your case will likely affect your family's future for years to come. You need to set your mind at ease and call attorney John Elias at 954-392-1501. Attorney John Elias will be open and honest with you about what to expect in your case and treat you with the respect and compassion you deserve. John Elias's practice has been devoted to family law in Florida for over 25 years. He will be there with you every step of the way. John Elias has offices in Pembroke Pines and Boca Raton. Whether you are thinking about filing for divorce or you are having trouble with child support, relocation, or adoption, you should contact attorney John Elias for any family law matter at 954-392-1501. That's 954-392-1501.
And we're back from home care to one of the top family law lawyers in
South Florida.
Not just one area, it's South Florida.
Yes.
So, Renee, you're excuse me, go ahead.
You're choking? So you want me to cover for you? So if this is your first time tuning into the Ask the Expert show, we bring in experts from all over South Florida in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. And we offer over 16 shows between our Friday and Monday live shows here on WWNN 1470 from 4 to 5. If you have a question today about family law and you'd like to direct a question to John Elias, call us at 888-565-1470. And John's law firm
is
one of the top family lawyers, and I know everybody, including myself, at some point needs a family attorney or knows somebody that needs a family attorney. So welcome to the show, John.
Thank you.
You know, one of the reasons, and I'm telling you, you've got to write this down because all this, you never know when you're going to need a family attorney. You might think you have the greatest marriage there is, but you never ever know.
Things change within moments.
Don't
That's all I'm
Google.
saying.
That's the worst thing you can do. We have the best of the best on our show.
And if you'd like to watch today's show, just go to wwnnradio.com. You'll see on the left-hand corner is a WWNN TV link. Click on there, and there we are. And John, tell everybody about your law firm and where you're located.
Sure. My main office is in Pembroke Pines at 11200 Pines Boulevard, Suite 200, Pembroke Pines. I've been practicing law in general for 27 and a half years, family law for about 25 years.
And that's your specialty, family law.
I do family and family appellate work. That's all I do.
That's all you do.
I do. Occasionally I'll do a contract case, but it's rare, but I will not venture outside the family law and the family appellate law area.
Right. So if you're looking for a family attorney, you don't want to go to one that specializes in too many different things. You want to go to a specific
boutique.
Right. You want to go to a family attorney that's knowledgeable in that area.
It's like if you go see a doctor. If you've got a head problem, you don't go see your general practitioner.
Exactly.
You go see a
But
neurologist.
you know, a lot of attorneys are trying to capture everybody, no matter what it is.
No, we see that all the time.
Yes, you do see that, but I it's always good to go to someone who does one area or one or two areas, and that's about it.
I agree.
So I want to start off by saying, what do you do if the spouse does not want to sign the papers?
Okay, Florida's a no-fault state,
Okay.
Steve, and whether you can get divorced for whatever reason you desire in Florida. You don't like the color of your hair, you just don't get along, whatever. There's no stated reason or purpose for you to state why you're getting divorced. If you serve someone with divorce papers, they don't have to sign anything. They get served by the process server.
What happens if you can't find them?
If you can't find a person, you've got to make what we call diligent efforts to locate them through the Florida Department of Motor Vehicles, the U.S. Postal Service, different avenues. If you can't, then you do what's called publication, service by publication.
Which is what?
Which is where you publish in a legal newspaper.
Right, okay.
Like one called a Daily Business Review. And they publish like an ad, not an ad, but an advertisement.
Like I'm divorcing you ad?
Oh, right. John is divorcing Rene. And the case number, and I'll tell you the date, the date that the answer is due and where to file. And if you don't answer by date certain, the default will be entered. It's not the preferred method of doing this stuff, but that happens when you can't locate somebody.
Nothing like making your divorce public, right?
Right. Yes.
You know, I don't know, I think especially for women, divorce has got to be a very scary thing.
It is. It is.
So walk us through, and let's
Well, especially
use-
because most people have children.
Exactly.
Yes.
And most husbands work. Wives work also, but then you have to also worry about the income and taking care of those children.
Correct.
So walk us through, first time someone comes into your office, I'm going to use a female, is that okay, Ed?
That's fine.
And they say, you know what, I'm thinking about, I want to get a divorce. Just kind of walk us through the stages, because I know, first of all, you've got to make them feel more comfortable and more at ease.
Correct. That's the first thing you do when someone comes in. A lot of people are very uptight.
Right,
I
we
can
said
imagine.
you could be like a psychologist.
Yes, they're very, very uptight. Whether men or women, it doesn't matter. Everybody's uptight.
Well, it's a tough time.
It's a tough time. It's very emotionally draining. So the first thing is I try to put my potential client or client at ease.
Okay.
Sit down, we little chatter at first, Then I get into the specifics: how long you've been married, where you're living.
Does it matter how long they've been married?
Yes, very relevant for the purposes of alimony and other issues. Very, very, very.
So you'll have to elaborate on that.
Yes, and then we get into if any children, the ages, whether both parents work, respective incomes, division of assets, what assets do they have, what assets were acquired during the marriage.
That's got to be a tough meeting.
Yes, it's most people. A lot of people.
Because now it's like it's setting in. It's like the wheels maybe are getting ready to go in motion now.
Well, once you start filling out the initial paperwork, and I've done that myself.
Right.
And it is very emotional, and you
Yeah.
have to sit there and go back and bank records and everything else.
Oh yeah, it's very time consuming. It's got to be very detailed.
Is it one meeting or several meetings or?
Steve, I'll be honest. Depending, I've got clients I meet weekly
Wow.
because of the complexity of their family law situation. I've got one case.
Is it for financial reasons or just others?
Everything. I've got one case in Miami where it's a dependency action where they're taking my client's children away. So I've got to meet with them every week.
Wow.
So it could be that you meet your client once a month, once, twice, every 2 months or weekly. They're a client that I speak to every day, basically, because their case is so intense.
Who works out the custody and visitations? Does a judge do that, or do you work that out with the other attorney?
Well, there's two ways of doing it. Actually, three. Sometimes a client will come in my office and say, I have a complete agreement with my spouse. They'll tell me the terms. I can only meet with one. I let them know specifically up front.
That's if it's amicable. Most of the time it's not, though.
Right. People think I've got an agreement. What I will do, Renee, is I'll prepare a paperwork, send it to the other spouse, advising them that I only represent the other spouse,
Right.
and then see if they want to sign or if they want to get their own attorney. Most of the time, I get a call back from another attorney saying, listen, I'm representing X, and there we go. That's the way the other way would be that you file your petition, you serve your spouse, and then you go to court and the judge decides, which is what you don't want.
Right. Exactly.
Before trial, there will be there's mandatory mediation. You've always got to mediate before trial.
With both attorneys on both sides.
Right. Both attorneys, both parties, and the mediator.
Right. You try to come to some sort of conclusion before going
Right.
into the courts.
But I always insist before I mediate, I have to have full financial disclosure before. I
Right.
won't mediate without disclosure, financial, from both parties. And then you can try to settle about 60%, 50 or 60% do settle at mediation. You don't get everything you want, but you get a portion.
Okay.
And it's better than letting a third party, i.e. a stranger, a judge, decide for you.
And not everybody discloses their income or assets.
That's a problem, and a lot of times you've got to dig and dig and dig and until
So that's what makes it time consuming a lot of times.
time-consuming and
Yes.
costly. Very costly.
How do you get the spouse to take care of the legal fees?
You mean
The other person. In other words, I'm coming in. I would
How do you
think
make the ex-husband pay for your legal
Exactly.
That's
fees?
the hardest. Yeah, that's a misconception that most people think that. Oh, my husband makes an example, $200,000. I make 50. Automatically, I'm going to get an attorney's fee award. Not necessarily up front.
Oh, okay.
You've got to go through the process of first determining whether there's entitlement to alimony, then child support, and usually fees. There are cases where you get temporary fees if there's a big disparity in income and where you can prove that the payers.
Temporary fees while you're separated before the divorce? Because I know
Yes.
we had this conversation once before.
Yes.
So there's no such thing as legal separation, but can you get monies in the interim?
Well, before the divorce is finalized,
Yes.
you can. Yeah, you can get temporary alimony, temporary child support, temporary attorney's fees.
But that's not automatically.
No.
So you have to file a petition in the courts.
You have to file and have an evidentiary hearing in front of a judge.
So a husband, because I'm speaking from experience,
Okay.
a husband could just walk away and not give you any money. You have to wait till you actually get into the courts to get monies.
Right.
So-
If the spouse doesn't voluntarily pay,
Right. So if a woman's not working and she has the children and you have no money, what happens in that case? Because I'm sure a lot of people have been through that,
That
or are
happens.
going through that.
it happens. You file your petition and request an emergency hearing in front of a judge or a general magistrate, which is like a judge, but the judges refer to a general magistrate, which is someone like an attorney who handles the case on behalf of a judge.
And you
And
work
how
all
long-
the courts, right? You work all the Broward County,
I
the
did
Dade.
the main ones I work at Broward, Dade, and Palm Beach.
Palm Beach.
But I've worked as far as Jacksonville.
Okay, so once you file for that emergency child
Uh-huh.
support or alimony or whatever,
Right.
how long does it take to file the petition once you get into court? If you file
That's
an
the
emergency
million-dollar
petition,
question. Depending on the judge's schedule, your schedules.
because they're not taking it as an emergency typically.
Most judges have a note outside their door: emergencies manifest death or injury.
Death or injury.
Yes.
Because emergency for me was 3 months.
Right. So you know where we're going.
Exactly.
I've had cases where I've gotten a hearing within 3 or 4 weeks, or 3 weeks, depending again that judge's caseload or workload, but most of the time it will take at least
It
a
takes
month
a
or
long
two
time.
to get in there,
How is child support calculated?
based on the respective incomes of the parties and the amount of time sharing or overnights that each parent has. So it's a combination of overnights, incomes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So it's based on how long the child stays with either parent?
Yes. The longer example, the husband makes 100,000, wife makes 50,000. If dad has half the children half of overnights, his child support goes way down. Even though
Really?
he earns more, much more.
But they add both incomes together.
They add both, and there's a formula. There's a Florida statute 61 which spells out a combined income. Say both parties make 10,000 a month, an example, and they have one child. The combined obligation for both parties is X.
Right.
Then you look at the payer spouse's respective income of the combined income, and then you look at the overnight time sharing, how much percent he or she has.
Is that new? Or they've always done that?
The
Time sharing.
The time sharing, it's been evolving for years now, but yes, you've always had.
Not when I was getting divorced.
No.
That's why I said that's something new.
When you got, how long ago was you got divorced?
10 years ago.
Okay, back then they had the primary, secondary residential parent designations. That's gone.
Okay.
Now it's time.
been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while.
You know, I'm going to put a plug in for John here. I can't tell you, and I don't know why, it's only women. I've never heard a man say this. They go, I should have gotten more money. I was too nice.
Yes.
I let him off the hook. And they're like, and it's something that it continues to bug them for years and years and years.
You mean after the end of a divorce?
At the end of the
Yes.
divorce.
Yeah, it happens.
So I'm telling you,
Can you go after them again after after they go to court? Don't worry, my time has passed.
Yeah, in certain cases you can. If there's a change, if there's an example, if a husband's still paying alimony and child support, and his income increases dramatically, yes, the former wife can come in and petition for an
Interesting.
increase in child support, and if and alimony, there's some circumstances you can't petition for an increase in alimony if you have an agreement where you have a non-modifiable clause for alimony. But apart from that, you can.
So let's talk about alimony for a second, because you were just mentioning about how many years you're married. So explain that.
The longer you're married, the more the doors open for alimony. In Florida, there's different types of alimony. One is called temporary, which is during the pendency of a dissolution marriage action. The spouse earning less typically can or sometimes get some temporary alimony. Then you've got what you call durational alimony, which is alimony can go up to the length of the marriage. That's for a marriage between 7 and 16 years. Anything above 16 years is permanent alimony usually.
For the rest of your life.
Yes.
So if you're thinking about getting divorced, wait till you're married 16 years.
Well, but then they've got to look at the respective incomes, the ages.
No, I understand that, but
Yes.
then you get alimony for the rest of your life.
Yes, and I'll tell you, and then you've got lump sum. So there's 4 different types.
We're going to go to break right now. When we come back, I want to come back to this point about these women who are so sorry that they really didn't go after their husband. And the main thing is, you probably
Why are
try
you
to
looking
do,
at me?
No, I'm just trying to say, you probably either try to do it yourself or you got one of those
Oh, don't
attorneys
ever
that,
do it yourself.
that tried to specialize in everything. So when we come back, we have one of the top family attorneys in South Florida, John Elias. We'll be right back.
The law office of John Elias understands that choosing a family law attorney is a difficult decision. The outcome of your case will likely affect your family's future for years to come. You need to set your mind at ease and call attorney John Elias at 954-392-1501. Attorney John Elias will be open and honest with you about what to expect in your case and treat you with the respect and compassion you deserve. John Elias's practice has been devoted to family law in Florida for over 25 years. He will be there with you every step of the way. John Elias has offices in Pembroke Pines and Boca Raton. Whether you are thinking about filing for divorce or you are having trouble with child support, relocation, or adoption, you should contact attorney John Elias for any family law matter at 954-392-1501. That's 954-392-1501.
And we're back. We're here with one of the top, he can't say this, but we can, one of the top family attorneys in South Florida. But don't let that scare you. Because I know your rates are really good.
Can I just
don't
ask you a quick question? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
If you hire an attorney,
Yes.
okay, and then you're not happy with what's going on with the attorney, can you switch over?
Yes, you can discharge that attorney at any time.
Okay, and what happens, because a lot of times you have to give them money up front, so what happens with
Well,
that?
usually, at least in my, most retainers, at least in my office, are non-refundable retainers. So usually you lose that sometimes. If it's a large retainer and it's not non-refundable, you get a portion back. So it all depends how much work the attorney did and how much.
What determines a retainer, the amount of the retainer?
Depends on the type of case, the attorney's experience.
You have a good idea of how long it's going to take, how much time it's going to take to
Yes.
put into it.
Normally when you get a case, and things can change in the middle of the case, but normally you can tell it's complicated. And
Especially if they don't reveal everything to you that you need to know.
Yeah, and you can. People ask me what's it going to cost me. I can't tell at this point. I can give you a ballpark, but
Right.
I don't want to be.
But you've got
tied
really
down.
good rates, though. So I don't want people to say because he's like one of the top family
Yeah.
attorneys that
Well,
he's got these sky-high rates.
My hourly is $350 per hour. That might seem high, but
Do
yeah.
you take coupons?
No, not yet.
Double coupons.
But you
No,
know,
but that's not. That's the typical
Yes.
rate. That's the going
typical
rate.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not outside
that's
the
not.
norm.
Yeah, it isn't. Yeah.
No.
Okay, so I know you and John were talking during the break, and he wanted to talk about. You don't know what I'm talking about? Weren't you and John just talking just now?
I just mentioned it about
Oh.
hiring an attorney. Is that what you were
Yes.
saying?
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say is that you got to be careful. I've a lot of cases where people go and hire again a jack of all an attorney who doesn't do family law. You've got to be careful because if the other side hires a family law attorney, they're at a huge disadvantage. And then people come back to me. They signed this agreement. It's not really good. They went to trial. Everything turned out bad. So
John, I have to agree with you because
You've
I
seen that
hired.
movie.
I have seen the movie. I hired a boutique lawyer that handled criminal, personal injury, family law,
right.
and my ex-husband hired a family law attorney.
How did it turn out?
Not good.
Okay.
For him, it did.
For him, it turned out wonderful.
Right. Not for you.
Not for me.
Yes.
Exactly.
So now, what happens when a spouse goes missing, and no one can find them? You can still get your divorce, right?
You can still get divorced. The court normally will will reserve on.
I mean, how long is that? We kind of talked about before. How long does that take? How long?
Is it still a 90-day process?
If you can't locate your spouse, then you've got to do publication, which takes about 45 to 60 days. And then you file your petition with the court, you do the publication, and after the publication, you move for a default, and then you set it for hearing. But the judges are usually at that point kind of, they've got their hands tied. They can't really order support. They don't have any numbers to work from unless you can come into court and show, well, here's what he's earned, he or she has earned, here's their tax returns or bank
And
statements.
how do you get that? That's difficult.
That's difficult. So a lot of times the courts will defer on issues of child time sharing, support, alimony, pending the locating of that spouse. But the divorce can go through.
How do you go about dividing marital assets? I know we touched upon that before. So how's that determined?
The rule of thumb is all assets acquired during the marriage are split 50-50. Again, there's always exceptions.
Right.
If one spouse has a greater earnings capacity than the other, the court can make an unequal distribution of marital assets. If a spouse contributes non-marital monies into an asset, a non-marital asset, that's not divided. Or if you inherit property during the marriage, that's yours, no matter what,
You don't have to split that.
You don't have to split that.
And how about the house? What happens if a woman has children and wants to stay in the house?
Normally, the court will look at, again, the financial circumstances of the parties. Can dad continue to pay for the home, leave mom in there with the children, and get himself a place?
Otherwise, they make you sell it.
Usually they have to pay.
And that's 50-50.
50-50 unless there's some agreement worked out or there's another factor that justifies an unequal distribution. But normally it's a 50-50.
What about mediation? Do you do much mediation at all?
All cases that are contested have to be mediated before trial.
Okay.
I've got one now. The judge decided it wouldn't work, so he waived it. But in general, it's rare.
How does that work? Do both come together with their attorneys
Right.
at a table?
What we do is...
You ever for duck?
no. What we do is the attorneys get together and
Okay.
select a mediator.
Okay.
Somebody we know.
I mean, there
does.
are some amicable divorces
There
that
are
go
some.
through mediation. It's not typical, though.
No, not really. Yeah. And what we do is we select a mediator that we think is appropriate.
Okay.
We exchange names, whatever. Then we schedule the mediation. Like I said before, Steve, I won't mediate before I have full and complete disclosure from the other side, financial.
Right.
Okay. Then you go to the mediation process. You with your client, the other attorney, his client, his
This
other
isn't to
client.
save the marriage. This is strictly about assets.
This is the
get
dissolution of the
dissolution, the children, the alimony, the support.
They've agreed to everything. Everything's wonderful.
Right. Now,
Yes.
there's three things you have in mediation. One is an impasse, which means nothing is resolved. Second is a partial agreement, where you settle some issues but not all. Or you can have a full agreement. So three alternatives, three things that can happen in a mediation.
Is there still collaborative mediation?
There's a collaborative law. I'm not a member of that. There's attorneys that specialize in that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you do mediation
Yes,
work.
definitely. Yes.
Grandparents, they don't have any rights,
Any
do
rights
they?
in Florida? They had them
You
back in the
surprised me. You
90s.
told me that last time.
Right. Not anymore.
'Cause
Statute was abolished years ago.
That was a big thing.
Yes.
Somebody who didn't have grandchildren had to be. Why would you do that?
I don't know, because something. I think what happens is when people get divorced, they end up losing touch with the grandchildren.
Yes.
So it's a hard thing. Do you handle adoptions?
Yes.
You do, okay. And that's like family adoptions, whether it's a new husband coming into the picture.
That's very typical. A new husband coming in, dad is gone. A new husband has petitioned to adopt the child, and there's a process for that.
So what happens with that? The father, the biological father, would not have to pay child support anymore.
Once the adoption takes place, before you do the adoption, you've got to do a petition to terminate parental rights of the father. Let's say an example, the father.
Mm-hmm.
The father can either sign a consent to the adoption, and that way you don't have to file a petition to terminate, or you file a petition to terminate. Dad has a chance to respond. He can fight it, or he can say, no, I don't care. They fight it, then you go through a trial to determine
If
whether...
he says he doesn't care, then he doesn't deserve to have any custody of the
and
child
then they
or
will
any
terminate-
parental rights.
They will terminate that parent's parental rights. Then, once the example again, the father's parental rights are terminated, but it could be mom's. Then, stepdad comes in and files his petition of adoption
And then that's the end of the child support.
for the natural father.
Right, exactly, for the biological
For
father.
the biological father.
Now, speaking of father, I just want, do men ever get alimony?
Yes,
They do?
I've had
Okay.
a few cases where that's happened.
Okay.
Not often, but yes.
Okay.
Like I said once before, I have to kill him.
And again, it all depends on the parties' respective incomes and the lifestyle and the length of the marriage. There's several factors for that, Steve.
Okay. Do you have satellite offices?
Yes,
So where's your satellite office in Palm Beach?
and here in Boca.
Boca, and then Pembroke Pines.
Pembroke
is
Pines. So
Broward.
give everybody your phone number.
Okay, my phone number is area code 954-392-1501.
And he gets back with you right away. I can tell you, if you whatever.
So you
to
answer the phone
email or
24/7. So if I called you 3 o'clock in the morning.
Well, what happens is once I leave my office, then my phone is transferred to my cell phone.
I have
Oh,
another,
okay. That's great.
I have another question. The 30 minutes goes by so fast.
does.
If you're paying child support on 3 children, as they turn 18, does any of the child support fall off at all?
Yes, yes,
It does,
yes.
okay. Is that a...
Do you have to file for a modification, or is that included with the initial agreement?
And years ago, you had to file for modification. Now, all final judgments of child support will tell you, okay, when child A turns 18, the child support drops
Okay.
and drops and drops.
And what happens if it doesn't? If it wasn't set up properly? Can somebody go in and file for a modification?
Well, you can file for a modification if it wasn't set up properly, then you have to go to.
If you had the boutique lawyer
Yeah.
and you didn't go to a family lawyer
you
like
need
yourself.
to either appeal it or go in for a thing called a motion to vacate the judgment based on a mistake or whatever.
And you handle those as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, we've only got another minute left. Let's give everybody your website, 'cause you've got a great website.
Oh, thanks, Steve.
Yeah, I love your website.
Thanks. It's www.johnnyeliasfamilylaw.com.
And your phone number?
954-392-1501.
He's
Perfect.
not just a good lawyer, he's a great guy, too.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you, John. This
Thanks,
has been
John, for
wonderful.
coming on today.
And have a wonderful week.
Thank you. You too.
Take care. And hey, we're going to be back here on Monday.
We're going to be talking about senior health and insurance public adjusters.
I know. Who's a lawyer. He's not just a public adjuster. So we will, everybody have a wonderful weekend. Drive safe. Peace and love.
We're out.
Great. All right.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Experts show with Steveo and Rene. Tune in every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. while some of the top local experts in their field from Broward and Palm Beach counties educate you in the areas of law, health, financial, and home improvement. You can also call our offices at 888-574-6999 to become an expert on our show. The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of its hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.